for Prabhuchinda. Thank you first of all for the intro, and then thank you all for the privilege to come and share a thing or two with you guys. It's a rare privilege. Myself and bro Yakub, we're going to be talking today about, on the topic we've been given is an interesting one. We've been given a term, futuristic digital age careers. Quite a mouthful. So we've tried to break it down. And essentially what we're going to be talking today is about how to stay relevant in an age of technological disruption, how to stay relevant in an age of technological disruption. Let's have a quick word of prayer. Father, I ask that as we share together with your children, I ask that you inspire the words in our mouth. Lord, the idea behind this talk is not just to inspire and motivate, but to trigger action in your people so that we can reposition ourselves for the future. Lord, I ask that as we share our thoughts, ultimately, Lord, lead and guide them in line with your plan and your will for their lives in Jesus' name. Lord, let this talk result into action and transformative changes in the life of your people. Thank you, Father, because you have answered. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here. Just let me know if you can see it once I do. So let me know if you can see my screen. Just so I know. Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So like I said, we're talking about futuristic G2H careers, but more simply, how do you stay relevant in the age of technological disruption? Now, I think I'll start by just a quick question, just for me to sort of gauge the audience. How many of us are in university? Just put our hands up in the chat if you're in university. If you're in university, just a quick show of hands in the chat.
Quite a number.
Okay. If you're working, sorry, thank you for that. If you're working, I just want to know the sort of split. You know, what sort of split have we got in the room? If you're in uni or if you're working. Okay, I think I can't see my end because I'm probably not the host. What sort of split have we got, bro?
So it was like 32 to 1, kind of.
32 what? At uni to 1?
No, in terms of ratio, 2 to 1.
So sorry, 2 to 1. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
sorry, I thought you said 32 to 1. Okay, fantastic. So 2 to 1. So I mean, yeah. So we've got you know. So is that 2 region of people working or university?
University for 2, 1 for working.
Okay, fab. Okay, so I'm going to start with this statement, which may shock you or may not shock you, actually. And that statement is that all of what you've gone to uni to learn, or maybe most of what you've learned, and those that are working, a lot of what you've learned maybe in your uni days and actually learning at the moment will become obsolete in the next 5 to 10 years, dare I say that. So most of the things that you learn is going to be completely obsolete. In fact, there's a saying that, you know, the knowledge that you have today has a half-life of about 3 to 4 years. What that means is that in 3 to 4 years' time, half of everything that you've learned will become completely obsolete, and you have to start all over again and learn something new, right? And the reason that is the case, and people believe that to be true, is because there's a lot of disruption, particularly by technology, you know, and over the last decades, there's been a huge rate in the level of disruption that we as human beings are having to struggle to adapt to all that's going on around us. Okay, and the reason that is the case is because as humans, through time, we've all lived through times of disruption, right? We've had, for example, you know, the first industrial revolution way back when. Now, that first industrial revolution led to the idea of a steam engine, and the steam engine came along and disrupted a load of things. And then we humans had to adapt. And then we had the second industrial revolution, which, you know, gave rise to things like electricity and power, right? We saw a lot of factories being set up, you know, steel power plants, that sort of thing. And we humans, again, had to adapt. We had to change, and we had to, equip ourselves in that sort of times. And then we're on to the sort of third industrial revolution, which some people call the digital age. And that digital age, like we know it, is the onset of the internet and globalization and all of that. And we've all had to adapt to that. And now there's something called the fourth industrial revolution, which has recently been coined. And I'm just going to play a video to help bring this home.
Swiss mountains that the world was first introduced to the phrase the fourth industrial revolution, and it's been a hot topic among academics, politicians, and business leaders ever since. But what exactly does it mean? The term fourth industrial revolution was coined by the founder of the World Economic Forum, a former professor named Klaus Schwab. Schwab wrote a book with that title to describe an era marked by a technological revolution that is blurring the lines between the physical, digital, and biological spheres. Let's break that down. Technologies like artificial intelligence, autonomous vehicles, or the Internet of Things are becoming ingrained in our day-to-day lives and even our bodies. Think of voice-activated virtual assistants, Face ID recognition, or healthcare sensors. Schwab first presented his vision of the fourth industrial revolution at the World Economic Forum's annual meeting here in Davos in 2016. But to understand the idea, we need to go much further back in history, to Industrial Revolution number 1. The first industrial revolution started in Great Britain around 1760 and spread to Europe and North America through the early 1800s. It was powered by a major invention, the steam engine. The result? New manufacturing processes, the creation of factories, and a booming textiles industry. From the late 1800s, the second industrial revolution was marked by mass production and new industries like steel, oil, and electricity. The light bulb, telephone, and internal combustion engine were a few of the major inventions of this era. The third industrial revolution, sometimes known as the digital revolution, occurred in the second half of the 20th century. In just a few decades, we saw the invention of the semiconductor, personal computer, and the internet. So what separates the fourth industrial revolution from the third? Experts say the main difference is that technology is merging more and more with humans' lives, and that technological change is happening faster than ever. Consider this. It took 75 years for 100 million users to adopt the telephone. Instagram signed up 100 million users in just 2 years, while Pokemon Go caught that amount in 1 month. 3D printing is just one example of fast-paced technology in the fourth industrial revolution. The industry has gone from a business idea to big business, with 3D printer shipments expected to increase from just under 200,000 in 2015 to 2.4 million in 2020. Today, you can have a hip replacement from a 3D printed bone or use a 3D printed bionic arm. Talk about blurring the line between humans and technology, right? This new era of technology is driving a lot of innovation. You can see in this chart the number of patents related to the fourth industrial revolution for things like 3D printing or AI has been climbing up and up since early 2000. Organizations are embracing new technologies to make their businesses more efficient, similar to how they embraced the steam engine during the first industrial revolution. But some companies and governments are struggling to keep up with the fast pace of technological change. Research shows innovators, investors, and shareholders.
Oh, hi there. So can everyone see my screen? I should have asked that question before I was playing.
We can only hear the voice, but it's your screen. We're just seeing the history of Industrial Revolution.
Ah, right. Oh, okay. Sorry, apologies for that. Let me just do that again. How about now?
Yeah, we can see that now, yes.
Oh, that's a shame. We'll have to go ahead because of time. Okay.
Benefit the most from innovation. The risk is that the fourth industrial revolution is making inequality, which is already a big issue, even worse. One study found billionaires have driven almost 80% of the 40 main breakthrough innovations over the last 40 years. That's a problem when the richest 1% of households already own nearly half of the world's wealth. Experts warn we are in a winner-take-all economy, where high-skilled workers are rewarded with high pay and the rest of workers are left out. Studies confirm technologies like AI will eliminate some jobs and create demand for new skills that many workers don't have. Privacy concerns are another issue, as the fourth industrial revolution turns every company into a tech company. Industries from food to retail to banking are going digital, and they're collecting a lot more data about their customers along the way. Users are starting to worry that companies know too much about their private digital lives. The World Economic Forum says a majority of leaders don't have confidence their organizations are ready for the changes associated with the fourth industrial revolution. With tech changing fast every day, it's time to catch up.
Okay, fantastic. So yeah, sorry about that. You didn't catch the sort of the first half of that video, but that sort of hopefully summarized. Are we back to the presentation now? We're back to the slides. Let me just check that. Can we see the slides now?
Yes, we can see the slides.
Okay, fab. So that summarizes in a nutshell the fourth industrial revolution. And like that video explained, we've had to change. We as humans have had to adapt over time through these revolutions. And now we're in a very unique time where we're going through this fourth industrial revolution. Now, may I just say that every single revolution that's happened, right, there have been victims or people that have been caught unawares, right, in all of the revolutions. In the very first revolution where the steam engine came on board, the victims of that first revolutions were horses, okay? Before the first revolution, horses and chariots were primary means of transport. And it was the only way people got around. But the moment that invention of steam engine came on board, like we can see here, the population of horses have just been declining. And actually now it's more expensive for you to own a horse because it's a luxury rather than a necessity. Right, so the group of creatures, if you like, that were badly impacted by the first industrial revolution is horses. Now, but dare I say that in this fourth revolution, okay, somebody just messaged me. We're supposed to be seeing the video. Yeah, no, the video is now ended. So can everyone see the slides? We should be seeing the slide now.
Yeah, we can see the slide.
Okay, fab. Yeah, so dare I say that just like horses were in the first industrial revolution, like could human beings, we humans, be the next victim of the fourth industrial revolution? Horses were in the first, but could we be the victims of the fourth industrial revolution? And actually, we can probably say there is already signs that human beings are the ones that are going to suffer. And the reason why this one is different from all the other ones, you might argue, well, humans have coped, right? In the first revolution, we adapted, we changed. In the second, we adapted, we changed. We started working and doing manual labor and working in steel plants and factories and building things. The combustion engine came in. There was a lot of manufacturing plants. We worked in those. And then, when digitalization came, we adapted, we changed, and took on all of these social media, digital platforms, and we adapted. But the reason why this one is different, this fourth revolution is different, is two things. As you can see on the screen there, it's the speed of technological advancement, intelligence of the things that are now displacing humans. Now, let's talk about the speed, first of all. There's something called Moore's Law. And Moore's Law talks about the processing power, right, of a microchip. And the processing power of a microchip is said to double every 12 to 18 months. That means in the next 5 years, the technology will be about 32 times better than we have it today. Now, think about it. Technology going at the rate at that sort of rate means that we as human beings, we not only have to adapt, which we've done plenty of times, quite rightly, but we have to adapt very, very, very quickly, right? And those that struggle and refuse to adapt or change will get left behind. That's why this is very different. Now, the second thing is the intelligence of the thing that's replacing us. Unlike the first revolution where it was a steam engine, we just powered the thing, we powered the engines. Or the second where it was, factories and we powered the machines that built the cars. We powered the machines that built, that extracted things out of the ground. We took place, roles in powering these things. Now, the difference here is that the robots that are now replacing or trying to replace humans in this fourth industrial revolution, they're just like, or they can be just like human beings in that they learn as they go along. They're intelligent just like we do, right? Now, suddenly, these robots are not just capable of taking what you do today, but they're actually capable of learning over time how to do a particular task, just like you and I can. And this was recently demonstrated, right? The deep science division of Google developed this supercomputer, which was essentially a robot, right? That beat the world champion at the ancient game of Go. It's a Chinese ancient game of Go. Now, this game of Go is quite unique, unlike chess, where you sort of look at the person's moves and you learn what they're doing. this is a game that you learn about the other person's strategy over time, over a couple of days. And I think this particular period was over 40 days. So you had this machine essentially playing against the world champion, but learning all the things that he was doing, right, over that period of time, and actually beat him at this ancient game of Go. And the game has been around for over 3,000 years. So that just goes to show the power of these robots. Not only are they, doing the things that we can do, and maybe better in some cases, they can actually learn a bit more and probably quicker than we can as well. And that's why it's a scary time to be in. Now, let's look at some of the things that have changed. Let's explore this a little bit, because you think, oh, well, okay, fine. Human beings have always done well. Fine. Let's begin to explore, even from the things that are around us that we can see, how humans are already victims of the Industrial Revolution. So I'm going to show you a couple of pictures. And what I want you to tell me, I want this to be interactive so you can unmute your mic. As I show you the picture, you tell me which profession or career could be a victim of the Industrial Revolution. Which profession could be a victim?
Drivers.
Absolutely. Drivers. Now, think about it. This is big business today. I mean, even Amazon themselves, one of their key areas is logistics, right? So think about, your FedExes, your DHL. Think about Uber drivers. Think about taxi drivers, haulage companies. The car, you only have to look at a typical motorway on a busy morning. It's full of cars, all with people in it at the moment, all driving. Now, Elon Musk believes that in the next 3 to 5 years, we could have a significant number of cars on the road that are driverless. There's just some technology to be perfected and maybe some government policies to overcome. But beyond that, the technology is already here. So what do you think are going to happen to the millions of people that drive every day for work in 5 to 10 years' time? Well, it's likely they're going to be displaced out of work. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Who's going to be affected by that? Okay, maybe.
Engineers.
Sorry, someone said something?
Possibly engineers.
Engineers, thank you. Yeah. So absolutely. So this what you can see in front of you there is a heavy duty construction vehicle, right? Typically they're used, for when they're building new roads or bridges, or sometimes used in mining site, right? So maybe all the way in Australia in mining farms. Now, because of the nature of the terrain where they work is typically desert land. There's nobody around there. They've implemented these autonomous vehicles, huge monsters, right? But just driving around the desert land, picking up sand and dropping it somewhere else, and picking up, cement and dropping it somewhere else. So again, think construction workers, think all these construction drivers or engineers. They're going to be affected by that. Okay, who's going to be affected by this?
Retail workers.
Absolutely, retail workers. Now, this is the first human-less, as far as I'm aware, grocery store. So there's nobody working in there. You walk in with your credit card in pocket. You pick the items that you want, and as soon as you walk out those barriers, it scans the credit card. It scans your credit card to the amount of the value of the things, of the groceries that you've picked. Again, very little or almost no human interaction there. In fact, I remember going a few years back now, this was probably about 2 or 3 years ago. I remember going to a hotel in Germany and wanting to check in. And actually, we just were driving by, stopped over, I think it was at Ibis, if I can remember correctly. And we're trying to check into this hotel. We looked in the doorway to see the reception. The reception door was shut, and we started, going around the building to say, well, how come there's nobody here? Like, the hotel looks busy, but there's nobody at the, there's no one standing at the reception desk. And then somebody came and advised us, oh, you don't have to. There's no one that sits here permanently at the reception. You just have to go on that machine outside and put your, just book for the room that you want to stay, the number of nights. Put your credit card in. The moment you put your credit card in and you pay, it just gives you a little code. You put the code in the door and off you go, right? So no longer do we need, tons of people, waiters and waitresses and receptionists and cleaners and lots of people running a hotel. Only a few people. And actually, when we eventually stayed the night, what I then found out was that the same lady that we saw, right, at the reception table when we're checking out, it's the same lady that was helping out with the breakfast, same lady that was sorting out some cleaning in the back. So they only had a few people working in that guest house, right? All because automation and technology have really enabled them to work that way. Okay, so who else is going to suffer? What about this picture on the right? What profession? Absolutely. Factory workers. So I did an internship, you know, at a manufacturing plant when I was at uni. And I think they had about 2,000 or 3,000 people, you know, working there. It's a big factory. They did, you know, built engines and parts. But this is Tesla's automated factory. You know, a lot of what they pride themselves on is actually, you know, using robots to build the cars. So again, not to say that there's nobody in the factory, but there's very few people working there because robots are doing the work that humans should be doing. Okay, so moving on, let's see what else there is. Who's going to be affected by this technology?
Customer care.
Agencies.
Yeah, customer care agencies. So you think, you know, call centers, you know, customer service, that sort of thing. I mean, it's so common now. You go on, you know, most of the, you know, maybe any sort of financial institution's website, especially in COVID-19. You know, when you go on their website, you want to talk to somebody, all you're going to get is a chatbot just talking to you. And that chatbot is just talking and answering your questions just like you would a human being. Okay? Who's going to be affected by these? Sorry, I should tell you what that is actually. So that is a bank teller machine, right? So a bank cashier machine. So this clearly, will affect those that are working at, I don't know what they're called, bank cashiers, maybe bank clerks. But think, I mean, I even think probably 5 years ago, maybe around 5 or 6 years ago, I used to walk into my local Barclays and, you know, queue in to see somebody and talk to somebody to pay some money in. But now you walk in there, I think there's only 1 or 2 people. There's one person on, you know, and then there's one person sort of standby hovering around, and then you've got lots of machines. Again, they're going to be affected. And I'm sure you hear the news of, you know, banks closing down their branches and trying to take everything online now. So all of people and these professions have been affected by this 4th industrial revolution. Okay, moving on. You might say, well, those jobs are, you know, the work bank cashier, retailers, they're all sort of, if you like, low skilled jobs. Well, what about these guys? Who's going to be affected by them?
Forex traders.
Absolutely, Wall Street traders. These guys, they pay them a fortune to sit there and watch the news and pick trades, you know, based on their experience and all of that. But I'm sure you guys have heard all over the place now. There are bots and algorithms that are doing just as well, if not better than your best fund managers. And a lot of this bot, you know, you're not paying somebody six-figure salary to sit there and watch the charts. And actually, you know, the bot can react a lot quicker than a human being would. So again, high-skilled people being replaced by technology. And finally, now, typically, accountants, insurance brokers, mortgage brokers, all these people are, you know, usually, you know, fairly skilled people. But I mean, there are stories and there's lots of case studies now where insurance companies are using bots, you know, to just assess your claims. And based on the things that you give them, the information that you give them, they decide whether or not your claim is even, you know, it's even worth a look before somebody might have a look at it. Or you want to buy new insurance, you want to get a new mortgage, or you're applying for a loan. All of these sort of things, again, are all being automated. So in a nutshell, I mean, almost all professions are some way going to be impacted by the 4th revolution. And we human beings are the ones that are going to suffer. Like I said, the 2 key things is that the speed of change is rapid, and the things that are replacing us, the robots, they're not just, you know, lifeless things that just, we push a button and then they do what we are. No, they actually learn what we're doing. They can learn from our own actions and, you know, and make their own conclusions. So that's where it becomes a bit of a dangerous or scary situation. Now, here's I've got 2 news for you. 2 news. I've got a good news and I've got bad news. Which one do you want to hear first?
Bad news.
I want to get the bad news out of the way. Okay. So the bad news is that, you know, the skills of the future, the skills that we need to survive in this new age is not taught in schools. It's not something that they teach you. It's not a technical skill. It's not social science or maths or any of that. The skills that we need to survive in the future, they're not taught in schools. They're not technical skills. Now, to the good news. The good news is if they're not taught in schools, they're skills that actually you and I can learn on our own, okay? So let's talk about what those skills are, because no longer is it going to be good enough for you to go and just be a good engineer and learn engineering, or for you to go and, you know, even learn IT, right? Or learn social sciences, or learn, you know, economics. And no longer is it going to be good enough just to learn those and have those technical skills. What we need are other skills. Now, and those skills are, okay, complex problem solving and critical thinking. So this is not, again, something they teach in school. This is your ability to think on your feet. This is your ability to challenge your assumptions, right? Because if you think about it, a lot of what's coming about nowadays is innovation. And the reason where innovation is born out of is out of somebody challenging a known assumption. You and I get up in the morning, you go and brush your teeth, or you take a walk, you want to cross the road. You just look left, you look right, you cross. You don't think about these things. You just do them on autopilot, so to speak, right? But what's required now is for you to start challenging and thinking and challenging those assumptions, challenging those the knowns, challenging the status quo based on facts and based on things that you can observe around you. The other thing around that is complex problem solving. Now, the robots might respond in relation to an input of information you give them. But let's say, for example, I mean, let's take a hypothetical example. You fly from, maybe from somewhere, you fly into London, and maybe you arrive in London and your bag arrives in New York. Now, the robot can tell them, oh, the bag of this person is not in this flight. Now, what the robot might not tell them, though, is that the bag is flown to New York and organize how you would get the bag back to your destination. They might tell them, well, the bag is in this plane over there in New York, but somebody physically still has to get involved and do all of that, solving a problem and say, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We might have to reschedule this and look at that. So the robots aren't doing that just yet, to my knowledge. So there's still going to be some complex problems that the robots can't learn. And obviously the fact that you are going to be the ones to challenge the way that we think now to create the new world, so to speak. So the other skill that's required is contextual creativity. So this is about thinking outside the box, right? This is about, identifying hidden patterns in things and trying to, in Steve Jobs' words, connect the dots and look at how this relates to that. A robot might not pick that up because it's not structured data potentially. And I'll say that a robot can't do that eventually, but at least for now, there's going to be human needed in terms of developing innovation and turning imaginative ideas into reality. So being creative and coming up with new ideas and new ways of doing things now is something that will be required in the future. The other skill that will be required is emotional intelligence. Now, as far as I know, the robots might be clever, they might be very, very good, but they don't have emotions. So they don't have the ability like you and I will has, thank God for that, to reason and solve problems based on the emotional reaction or experience of somebody else, right? This is about, and for me, I think this is what separates those that are successful from those that are not, even if they both have the same technical skill. I'm sure you might have seen examples of people, and I certainly have come across, somebody at a previous place of work who was very, very smart, really, really sharp guy, really high IQ actually, and actually really proud of it. And everybody knew he had a high IQ because he talked about it a lot. But one of the areas that I noticed that he struggled with is just people, right? He was falling out with people, falling out with project managers, falling out with people that he worked with because of this lack of emotional intelligence, and it's this ability to control your emotions and to manage how you react to situations around you, in chaotic, confusing environments. Now, the robots can't do this. There will still be people needed to show empathy. There will still be people needed to show compassion. The robots cannot be a preacher. They can't preach the gospel, right? There's still going to be need for somebody to show empathy and show compassion. Okay. And the final thing I want to talk about here, skills for the future, is cognitive flexibility. Now, simply put, this is just your ability to learn. Because like we said, things are going to change so fast, you're going to need to be learning so quickly. I mean, think about it. When I went to uni and I was studying from a textbook, I wonder whether those textbooks are even any relevant today, because a lot of those concepts and principles have changed. In the IT space, they require you to do a lot of certifications and recertifications because technology is constantly changing. They know if you just did a certification 5 years ago and you stood still, well, you'd be miles behind. That's like using, I don't know, Microsoft 97 when everyone's got 365 or 2020, right? So it's your ability to learn and to adapt and to take on new information. These are the skills of the future, not my ability to do algebra or my ability to look at Pythagoras theorem, or my ability to know where, you know, Mozambique is on the map. All of those things, you know, will not be required in the future. Okay, we've talked about the skills of the future. I'm now going to hand over to Bro Yakubu, who's going to briefly touch on what are the fields, because I know the people are thinking, okay, well, right, this is very generic, right? This is skills that you need in any profession, you might argue. But what are the fields of the future? Because like we said, if you're in driving and you went to school or college and did driving, well, it's very likely in 10 years' time, that profession will be obsolete. So there will be some professions that will be prevalent in the future and others that will die out. So we've picked a range of them, and we've picked already the top 6 professions that we believe are going to be around for some time to come. So, bro, over to you, sir.
Right. Thank you very much, John. That was a very, very great one. And we've got a list here in the slides. And the first in here, we've got data sciences. And you want to ask, what is all this data science? And as John was talking, he did mention the soft skills that you really need, how prevalent they will be for the future. And it's quite interesting for you to know that we are actually in the future right now. John, can somebody just confirm that you can hear me so I know I'm talking with the people?
I can hear you, sir.
Okay, great. So it appears everybody can hear me now. So now when we're talking about the future, so take it from me that we're living in the future. Because before now, there's been a lot about, talk about digital transformation, about future. But when COVID-19 came, from December through to now, lots of things has actually happened, which confirms that we are in the future. So when we talk about fields for the future, take it from me that we're speaking now. So the first thing you see there is data science. And what is data science? Basically, data science is your ability to be able to bring in mathematical skill, different kinds of statistical skills, techniques, and then use the tools and lots of numbers, lots of data to be able to aggregate these things to make meaning. Sounds a little bit complicated right now, but it's going to be simplified. Now, when we're discussing data science, we'll be cutting across stuff like artificial intelligence and machine learning. What's artificial intelligence? What's machine learning? It's basically the ability for us to make a computer to do things that we're expecting a man to do. And somebody defines it this way, that the more we go on artificial intelligence, the more the dividing line between human and computers is becoming very, very thin. You're dealing with a computer, but you don't know, and it seems like you're dealing with human beings. And like the chatbot Bro John showed just now, if you look at the chatbot, you see, you type and it responds. You type another thing, it responds. You're not speaking, you're not chatting with no humans. You're chatting with a machine. And I like to say to you that when we use the word machine, when I say computer, when I say robot, we're speaking the same thing most of the time here. And it doesn't necessarily mean a very big structure, a huge, gigantic structure. When we say machine learning, it doesn't mean one big robot, iRobot and all of that. It might just be a simple algorithm, a simple line of codes that's in your computer that is running. That is what we mean when we begin to use words like computer. When I use words like machine, or I use words like robot, it's not necessarily a physical structure. It might just be a computing system that you have there, like the chatbot. So that is the chatting robot. So it's chatting with you, and you asking questions. You want to know about your bank card, and it's giving you answers. That's number one. Another thing that we need to see that will be another field in the future is cybersecurity. Lots of persons are online because of COVID, and your security is being tampered with. Whether you like it or not, there are some persons that all their job is to see how they can hack into this system, hack into the other system. Zoom, for instance, in the past couple of weeks, they did lots of upgrading in their own system. Why? Because they need people that are using their platform to be secured. If you go on WhatsApp, you always see end-to-end encryption. Whatever you do on WhatsApp is only you and the other person that has access to it. They need to make people secure. These are some of the things that will be prevalent in the future. Another one there is cloud engineering. I remember when I started learning computer, that was around 1999, we used to buy what we call floppy disk, the 3.5 floppy disk. Some persons will remember that. And then we'll put it in, we'll slot it inside a computer, and that's where you save whatever you want to save it. And it migrated from that to flash drive. And those that have flash drive, it was like a chain. You just put it in your neck. You're so proud of it that you have a flash drive. You can store lots of things there. the saving capacity of the flash drive became higher than what we used to do in our floppy disk. And then it moved, we started having a standard hard disk. Some friends were now having stuff like 1 gig, 2 gig, 3 gig, 10 gig, and some are now buying in terabytes, but things have changed. Now you don't need to carry those things. Things are in the cloud. What is the cloud? It's a server somewhere, anywhere, but then you are not interested in where the server is. You're just saving your stuff there. Amazon Web Service, Azure, Google Cloud, even Alibaba, they've just got those things there. You can save things in the cloud, and you can be in Nigeria, and I'm in the UK or I'm in the US, who are doing stuff collaboratively. Everything is in the cloud. Nothing is saved in any flash drive or wherever. These are key IT roles or fields that will be very prevalent in the coming future. And now, they are very broad, but I'll try to break it down into different subsections. And then we could go to non-IT skills. We could talk about biochemistry. Now there have been lots of noise about people looking for vaccine. COVID has come, and this thing is really going to be with us for a couple of years. And the more technological advancement, the more we're having different medical issues. You see, it's a two-way traffic when we begin to advance the technology, that we are advancing ways to live better and healthier. However, we're also bringing some more diseases, infections, and germs that were not there before. They are just coming based upon our activities and stuff like that. So we need people in this field that can look for vaccines, look for medicines, pharmacies, that can do stuff to improve our life in that regard. Besides that as well, the materials that we use. You want to fly a plane and you don't want to use very heavy materials anymore. You begin to look for materials that are lighter, that are more resistive to heat, resistive to maybe chemical compounds, composite materials. People that will be working as psychologists, mental health advisors. Lots of persons have been locked up for 3 months and their mental health is deteriorating because of COVID-19. Some other persons, it's not just the lockdown that is affecting their mental health. The fact that they have been out of job or they are not sure of their job, every day they wake up, they don't know if they'll be losing their job tomorrow, is affecting people's mental health. And because of that, you need psychologists to talk to them. And to crown it all up, we need the medical doctors, like our doctor that spoke to us at first. We can't do without them. Because why humans and our health usually would fail us just as your machines would fail. So you need medical doctors to take care of us, to take care of humans when these things happen. Now, I've talked about all of these things. I want to break it a little bit down so that we can see what we can do, because I'm more interested right now in the action plans. You've seen these things. Now the question is, what are the things that people need to do? What are the action plans? What are the things you need to look at? We are trying to look at the past and now. I'll do a share of my screen. I want to share a screen from my side now. Excuse me. Okay. Sorry, I want to share my screen so we could really talk about what's in the past and what is the future. Where are we going from here? And I would like to do a comparison about some different jobs that we've seen before, different kind of roles that we've always known before, and how these things have changed over time. Oh, not this one, sorry. Not this one, I need to stop this share now. Not this. Oh, no, sorry. Okay, while I try to sort the screen I'm trying to share, let me just say some things about the past and where we're going from now. Now, in the past couple of years, there are some companies that we've always known. And when you tell people that want to work in companies where they aspire to work, people want to work in Shell, people want to work in Chevron, people want to work in BP, Tata Steel, and all of that. But digital transformation has come and the tide has changed in that regard. Now, I'd like to do a comparison of these things. Number one, you will notice that in the past couple of years now, we've started having new kind of companies that people are working with. And that is the then and the now in this regards. Number one is this. Facebook wasn't there before, but now we have Facebook. Google wasn't there before, now we have Google. You talk about WhatsApp, you talk about Twitter, all of these were not there before. This is exactly the evolution and what has happened. Can you confirm if you can see my screen now?
Yeah, we can, sir.
Okay, great. So what am I trying to say? I'm speaking to people that are working and people that are students as well. And we're trying to see what exactly is happening before and where we're going. And now you can position yourself for the future. Before now, when you want to get a job or when you're working, you aspire to work from 9 to 5. That is standard. Or maybe 8 to 4 as the case may be. But that has changed. Now you actually work anytime. It has changed. I teach in a university, and before now, I can actually go to the uni. I go to the uni in the morning and I come back in the evening. But that has changed. I've got students everywhere scattered abroad doing stuff, and I relate with them online, which I will come down to talk about. Our doctor talked about people that are doing things remotely. So it's not necessarily 9 to 5 anymore. There are some persons now that are fitness coach, and what they do is they've got subscription based. People pay money. I mean, my wife registered for one, and I think they pay 30 pounds or 50 pounds for a month. And what they do, they come on Zoom live, and all of them watch each other doing exercises in their living room. And that's how she's earning her money. It's just like that. You don't really need to do 9 to 5 anymore. Before now, people want to work in corporate offices. Now that has changed. You work anywhere. And that is the transformation we're talking about. So while people aspire before now to get a job with Shell, with BP, with Tata Steel, now people don't really necessarily need to aspire for that. You can come up with an idea. John talked about complex thinking. Now, I'm going to look at that analysis when we begin to talk about innovative digital product development. I'll come down to that as I make progress. Before now, you work in a company and you're using company equipment that has changed. You use any device. Before now, there's a focus on the input. You must work 8 hours. You must work 35 hours. Now, those things are changing. A friend was speaking in a meeting and he said where he works, that there is like Xbox, you know, this computer game, it's there in the lounge there. In work hour, you can leave where you are and you go and start playing game. That might be what you need to cool off, to think about what you need to do. Because your work is not normal. It's no longer a routine job anymore. It's not like before that what you've been doing before is what you keep doing every day. It has changed. So sometimes you just need to cool off, take like 2 hours away, and then the idea comes. It's all about idea. It's all about cognition. It's all about thinking. It's all about problem solving. That's where we're going. Now, before now, people, you climb the corporate ladder one step at a time, one step at a time. Now you can actually create it yourself. If you go to Nigeria, for example, now if you go to the digital space in Nigeria, there are lots of people that their aspiration is to be actors. You want to be seen on the TV screen. And it takes lots of time to get there, one step at a time, one step at a time. But that has changed. Life has so much transformed. People just make skit of 60 seconds, 90 seconds skit. They become popular. And the people that have been doing that for 5, 10 years start hiring them. Why? They've created their own ladder themselves. What we're doing this program this evening is to begin to ignite the passion in each and every one of us to begin to see what exactly am I doing? Am I still operating in the past? You probably you're not doing it now, but what is it that you're thinking of doing? What you're thinking of doing might actually be something in the past. You need to begin to learn. You need to begin to know how to prepare for the future, which is now. Jobs were predefined, they are no longer predefined. You had knowledge before, no more. Before you might not have a voice, now you do. Lots of emails, now is cloud-based. Before there's focus on knowledge, now you're focused on adaptive learning. I have a cousin in Nigeria, sorry, not my cousin, my nephew, my elder sister's first son. He finished his secondary school education. He needed to get busy. And then my sister was speaking to me that the boy said he wants to learn computer programming. And I gave all the support, all the encouragement that I could give to this young man to do what? Go and learn Python. Why? Because just by learning Python, you can actually create a company of your own. And you earn more than you could actually have imagined right in your living room or right in your bedroom, just with having that skill. You need to be focused on adaptive learning. The boy went ahead, started learning Python, and he sent me something. He said, Uncle, see what I've done. He was trying to build a game. His aspiration is to go to MIT. I'm supporting him, although he's schooling somewhere in Nigeria now, but I trust the young man. He still has that as his life, as his goal and aspiration. You need to be ready to learn new things. That is the world we're living in right now. So it's not just about corporate learning and teaching. Right now, you learn things anywhere, everywhere. There are lots of things on Udemy, on YouTube, just name it. That's how things have been. The past and where we are, where we're going. I'll show you another slide just now. Before I came in, just like maybe 4 years ago, I was doing something like this. This is an oil pipeline. And what happens is this, what we do is we go to inspect this pipeline to see what's happening here. Is there leakage here? Is there anything? Basically, we want to look out for leakage or what's the problem? Is it broken and all of that? But I know that this is not a sustainable career. I left the job and I moved in to do a doctorate program. Why do I have to leave the job? It is not sustainable. How long will humans have to be inspecting these things? And you have 3, 4, 5 human beings going about inspecting this thing with security men guiding them because people might want to come and abduct them because you have the pipelines in very remote areas, sometimes in swampy areas, prone to flood, prone to drowning. You're on the waterways, reptiles and everything there, and that is where you're working. I don't think there are crocodiles there, but it's quite swampy. Now, I left my job and I moved to Aberdeen to do a doctorate program. Why? Because I know this is the future. In the future, we have drones. It's just about drones. Somebody just stays somewhere and you're flying drones and you're inspecting everything in the pipeline. Why employ 5 human beings and hire 5 security men, fuel their cars, and let them go and hazard their life to be trekking in the swamp because they want to inspect the pipeline, where you can have just John to be a drone operator, and you can have Yakubu to code, and then you can buy the drone, and John stays there, Yakubu stays here, and while in the office, we're operating the drone, and we can see everything happening right there. That's the future. That is me. Another thing that I do is that I teach in the classroom. But when COVID-19 was coming, I already know everything that you're doing, you must know how to adapt it in the digital age. And then I started doing things online. I bought a writing pad with which I can annotate, and you will see whatever I'm doing there. And now when COVID-19 came, everything that we're doing now is in the, I basically teach in my bedroom. So my students come on Zoom and I'm delivering my lectures, they submit assignments, everything is done. And you could do some other things on Moodle. It's all digital. These things are changing. These things are really, really changing. Before now, you know, cameras, how many explosions, but now it is digital camera. Before now, it was blockbuster. People just want to go get a movie and watch. But now, almost everybody, lots of persons are on Netflix. Now, let's come home. I've been saying a lot that it is no longer business as usual. Even education is no longer business as usual. Somebody said that in Finland, you can go to school and choose what you want to learn. Because if you be honest with yourself, if you studied mechanical engineering for 5 years in university, there are some courses you do in the university that you will never use in all your lifetime. Even if you work as a mechanical engineer, there are some courses that you won't use. Now, so it was trying to say that in Finland, when you go to school, you actually choose what you want to learn. So if your plan is to work in maybe automobile, so when you go to study mechanical engineering, those are the ones that will waste your time. You could zoom into what you really want to learn, what you want to master. What am I trying to say? Things are changing. And we've talked about machines coming to take people's job. But I want to just give you a good news that don't be so scared that machine is taking people's job. The idea is this. When John was telling us about this transformation coming, you notice that there was a man taking charge of the horse before in the cart, and it appears the man's job has changed. No, sorry, it appears the man has lost his job. But I would like to put it in another way, that the man's job only changed. And it can only change if he can adapt. Our first speaker talked about the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. All the man needed to do was to stop learning how to control the horse, but to learn how to drive a car. So when automobile came, all he could do is now to get in the cab and to start driving. He's in the same business. He's doing the same thing, transporting people, but he's doing it differently. Why? Because he's got this growth mindset and he's been able to adapt to advance. That is what we're discussing this evening. You need the mindset to be able to adapt to advance. What are some of the things I want you to take home? Number one is this. In the world we're living in, digital product innovation, first question I want you to start thinking, what do people need? What do you think people need? Zoom thought like, people need to talk remotely. The person that formed Zoom was working before with WebEx. Yeah, was working in WebEx. And in WebEx, they have one particular problem. In WebEx, when you want to connect, the process of connecting to WebEx is not very, very fast. It's not well optimized, and sometimes connecting to meetings is a little bit delayed. This guy went away from WebEx, got some other persons, and they formed their own company, which is Zoom. And they made it very, very easy for you to get connected on their platform. And they started gaining patronage even before COVID came. The first question is, think, innovate, complex thinking. The question is, what do people need? What exactly do people need? And where do they need it? Then you ask yourself, why do people need it? The last question is, how do you give it to them? If you can answer these questions, it takes a very deep thinking to know what do people need, where do they need it, why do they need it, and how can you give it to them? That is where product development starts coming from. Then you will notice that as you're thinking about these robots coming, these robots are going to get bad. Yes, definitely they will get bad. I'm going to start to learn how to repair these robots. Well, these robots are not going to build themselves. Somebody's going to build these robots. Well, why don't I go to start learning how to build these robots? Somebody's going to write a computer program to control them. Why don't I just go there? Or you might want to say, come on, Yakubu, you're making this thing look like everybody must go into IT. Must everybody do IT? No, everybody must not do IT. And that's the last thing I want to talk about. If I go to this slide, you've got lots of arrows here. This arrow is going to segment everybody somewhere. You're going to fall somewhere by the time we're through with this exercise. So if you just follow me so that everybody can fall under one category. Number one, let's start. What is your job? So I want you to think in your mind now, or you write it down. What's your job? So we're starting the flow. Confirm that you already have something in mind. It could be what you're doing now. It could be what you plan to do. It could be what you're studying in the university, what you'll be doing in the future in 2, 3, 4, 5 years' time. So if you unmute your mic now, I would really like it so anybody can interrupt me and talk now. So if you have something in mind, somebody just say yes.
Yes.
Okay, I got a yes. Now I go. Can a machine do my job? Ask yourself that question for another 10 seconds.
No.
Somebody said no. Tell me your job.
Yes.
Tell me your job. The person that said no, tell me what your job is.
I'm studying to do cybersecurity.
And the machine cannot do your job. Now,
Well, yeah, for analysis.
security is basically the machine, isn't it?
Yeah, for analysis, another.
Yeah, so the machine, as I said, doesn't mean it's a robot. So when you do cybersecurity, what it means is that instead of doing security by guns and warships, you're doing security with a machine, with a computer, with algorithms, isn't it? So you are fully there.
Yeah.
So if you say, yes, a machine can do your job, you need to consider a change. What are some of the jobs that you think a machine can do right now that we'll see or in the future? We've looked at it before in the previous slide. Somebody just tell me something.
Construction.
Construction, any other thing?
Accounting.
Accounting, somebody say something else?
Driving.
Okay. Now,
Yakubu,
yes, please.
can a machine do an IT service engineer's job?
A what?
An IT service engineer.
Now the question is IT service engineer. What is the job of an IT service engineer?
Does she mean network engineering?
Because in everything that we're discussing now, we need to know what is that, because it's not just about the job title right now. It's all about what is the job going to be about, okay? So you need to think, can a machine actually do this thing? Like my presence is no longer needed there. I work as a cashier, as a teller, and yours truly, a machine can just be there and my presence is completely useless. Then I need to consider a change if that's what I've been thinking of doing in my life. So if it's
Okay,
a yes,
Yakubu.
yes.
Sorry, it's just because I asked that question because I got a job with BP as an IT service engineer. And is it not obvious that a machine is not going to be able to do the job the way I will intuitively do it?
Yes.
And actually, they haven't really inducted me because I'm yet to resume. And I'm going to go through a lot of training and all. So do you think
Okay,
a machine can do my job?
Please, can we take all questions to the question section? We just want Jacobi to round up. Every question you have, we have almost an hour for questions so that you can round up. We need to go for a break now. So
thank you, Chinda. So let's go. Thank you, Chinda. So if the answer is no, you're not going to say, can a machine do part of my job? That's the second question. So if the answer is yes, you need to learn how to operate that machine, or you need to learn how to program the machine. Once again, the machine might not be physical robots. It might just be a computer system, an algorithm that runs in the background. So if it is yes, learn how it works so you can fit in. It's like a driver that needs to learn how the driverless car is going to be. Now, if the answer is no, there's another question for you. Can a machine change the way I do my job? A machine cannot really teach engineering students in the university, but a machine can change the way, and when I say machine, I mean if technology, that's what I mean. So it can change the way I do it. What am I supposed to do? I need to learn again. So you need to go back and learn how to operate the machine and how it works. Many pastors, they don't know how to use Zoom before now. But when COVID-19 came, they need to learn how to preach via Zoom, how to use information technology, how to connect on Facebook, how to connect on Instagram and YouTube. That's exactly what we're saying. It means that the machine is changing the way they do their job. So they need to learn how it works. The next question, if it is no, I have another question for you. Can technology now make me more efficient in what I do? I'm an accountant. I do business. Yeah, that's what I do. I have an African shop in the UK. Well, you can use technology. You can begin to sell online. You can have presence online, e-commerce, Amazon, and all that. Technology is actually going to change. If it is yes, you need to learn and you need to adopt the new technologies in that your area. What else? If the answer is no, I have the last question for you. Is your job totally independent of technology? If you say no, then you need to start researching about what you do. And now you can bring in information technology into your domain. But if you say yes, I leave the last thing to you. Stop and do nothing. And that's me done. So I don't know, is there anybody in this class today that will stop and do nothing? If your own answer is stop and do nothing, let me hear you say yes. So everybody has got something to do.